Hey guys, this is Tara from O Creations, and I'm working with these beautiful strap connectors from BringBerry Hardware. I'm working with some leather and attaching it to a bag that I'm working on right now. So I was asked to do a quick video to show how this works. And Karen at BringBerry Hardware actually has some templates information that you can get with your hardware. When you go to buy these strap connectors, there is a link on her site where you can purchase the template and instructions for how to use these. The style that she has is where you have the strap connector fitting into place like so. You fold it in half, you slip it in there, and you have an O-ring in the top there so that you can use these on the ends of your bags and attach snap hooks to them, or you could even put them on the front of a bag with those O-rings and attach your strap on there. What I'm doing today is I'm attaching it directly to the bag as a solid piece, which means I'm working on my front panel of my bag and I'm attaching it right now as opposed to putting the straps on at the very end on my O-rings or D-rings. So this is one of the strap connectors. On the back, you have screw holes, which is where you use these washers and screws, and that goes through your fabric. But before you can do that, you actually have to put your strap in, and you have this little bar to rivet in place. So here's what it looks like when you've taken that bar out. It's just 2 screws to take the bar out. So you sit here, and I actually use a regular size screwdriver for this one. I don't need a little one. Slip it in there and start untwisting. These also have a plastic coating to protect them, so you can peel that off so that you can get your bar off. And then you're ready to start working with them. Karen also has the template. What I've done is I've taken it and I've cut out along the lines. Now, because I'm not doing the fold over, I'm using it as a template for the end curve. And what I did was I layered this onto my leather strap that's already made. You can do this with leather, cork, or fabric. And I've lined up the sides coming up a little ways. That means it's straight at the end. Then I took a leather pen. Because I'm working with leather, it's a leather pen. This is a Tandy leather silver pen. I drew around it, and then sharp scissors, because you're going to cut around that too. Which means when you're cutting the ends where you have threads, because I'm using a nylon thread or a meltable thread, I did use my little flamethrower to melt it down my thread ends so that they don't stick out. And on some of them, I actually was able to pull them right to the back because the back of my strap is going to be in this metal section. You can do this with fabric. If so, then I would use fray check. I have some fray block here, and put that right along that edge just so that it doesn't fray afterwards. And then when we go to put this together, we're also going to use some glue to help it stay in place. And I use Loctite thread locker. So I've taken my template from BringBerry, laid it down, drawn my end, and I've cut that. You then want to slip it into your connector, push it all the way down, get it tucked right in there. I am using my nail here. You can use a screwdriver or something pokey. Be careful you're not scratching the metal. And then you're going to flip it over and mark these 2 holes. Once you've marked these 2 holes on your leather or your fabric or your cork, you can then punch them out. When you go to punch these holes out though, you don't want to use your teeny tiny hole punch just so that the screw will fit in there. What you actually want to fit in there are the posts on the bar. The posts on the bar are actually a little thicker, okay? And you want those to fit right through our hole. So here, we're shoving this one right in there. When you do this, you have a flat end of the bar and a curved. That curve goes with the curve of your piece. You could do it the other way. Just be consistent. All four should go the same way. And I'm pushing my fabric or my leather right in around those holes. Again, use something to do this. Just pressing it down so that the posts for those holes are sticking through. This is also where you'd want to slip this in and make sure everything aligns properly again. Okay, slipping it right down in there. It actually fits really well when you've got the right thickness of material. Okay, make sure you can see your holes there. Then I slip it out about halfway and use some E6000. I did not pre-open my E6000, which is why I have pliers nearby to get it open. Don't use much of this. You just want to spread it around. I'm just putting it on the metal. Your strap is going to push it down, so you don't want to put much in there. Be sure to get all your glue strings. I can see I've still got some here. And this will also rub off of my metal as it starts to dry, so I can at least get it off that way. So now we'll slip this on here. Try and get some glue underneath it, not push it all. Okay. And as I get to that end, I want to make sure the ends of my strap tuck right down underneath that lip. Okay, again, another way to do that is to use your flathead screwdriver, or I have a little awl that allows me to pokey right in there, just to make sure it's all in. Okay. This is where I'm going to check again and make sure I have my screw holes perfectly aligned. So here you can see I can get my screws in there. I do have a piece of fabric on my cutting mat. This is just to protect my metal. I don't want to scratch it. It's very important that it look very pretty when I've finished my bag. Last thing you want is that not looking as pretty as the rest of it. And here I have a screw. My screwdrivers are stored on a metal bar, a magnet bar that I got from IKEA, which means that they become magnetic. They take on that magnetic property. And my thread locker. Oh, didn't open that one. Here we go. Thread locker, I use Loctite 262, which is a permanent thread locker. You do not need to. This is high strength thread locker, 262. This came from my husband's garage, which is why I use it. It's a big bottle. We've used it on many things throughout the house, including the screws in a bunk bed when they started coming loose and the bunk bed got shaky, and last thing we wanted was a kid falling because the bunk bed wasn't stable. But you can get temporary, you can get permanent, high strength, medium strength, low strength. There's different colors out there, there's different brands out there. Loctite is a brand, so when you go to look this up, you want thread locker. If you wanted to purchase it from Amazon, this Loctite 262 in a bottle that size is like 40 bucks here in Canada. So I recommend getting a smaller one. A lot of your home improvement or Home Depot type stores, Rona, any of those will have something. And here we have, my end is now in place. Okay, so this is now ready to be attached to a bag. I'm done. I did do some extra stitching on here. Not only did I stitch right close to the edge, I also did some stitching on the inside just to give it more definition. These are 1 1/4 inch wide straps that I've done to fit in here perfectly. So before you work on any edge connectors, strap connectors, anything like that, I always measure the final strap width to use on it, regardless of what they sell it as in any shop. In this case, It does identify it's 1 1/4 in the BringBerry Hardware shop. But if you purchase something like this or any kind of strap connector from AliExpress, Etsy, any of those online shops, double check them before you cut your straps. Okay, so I'm going to set that strap aside. And I'm going to bring over this one. Here I have a piece of dogwood denim, so it's fairly thick. Dogwood denim comes from Spoonflower. This print is from Cam Creative. She is a designer I follow on Spoonflower. I love the vibrancy of her prints. And once I get it printed on canvas or on denim, it's actually a nice heavy weight. So I have not adhered any SF 101 to this. This bag is meant to be a slouchy bag. This bag is the Maggie 55 Voyage handbag I'm working on without pockets. The exterior is going to be just the print. So here I have washers on the back of this one. This one is already connected. So let me tell you how I get to this stage. Using my pattern, I identified where I wanted my strap connectors to reside. Karen, in her templates at BringBerry Hardware, does give you a template and tells you how to use it. This puts you at a low enough level from the top edge of your bag that you'll be able to top stitch along that when you turn this bag or if you do a drop-in lining. So it's really important you leave a gap between the top of your hardware and the top of your bag. If you have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, you're going to fold over that much and then probably top stitch around this area. You want to be able to push your handle out of the way to get to that. So use your template. It's really important. This is identified as the center. If this were the width of your bag, you can always move that out a little further. But the point is, stay this far down from the top edge of your bag. On this bag, for my reinforcement behind my connectors, I've used Decovil Heavy. It's a nice heavyweight stabilizer. It's not going to tear, it's not going to stretch, it's not going to do anything to me. But because I've just got the denim and then I have this stabilizer, I feel this poking up. So I need something else before I put that washer down to hold this in place. Otherwise, this might pop out a little bit more than I want it to. Okay, so what I have here are scrap pieces of leather, and all this is doing is providing another layer. So this is actually a fairly thick leather. As I mentioned, it's a scrap. It's not really big enough for a whole lot of stuff, so it's sitting in my scrap collection. I do have friends that use these pieces from me in their arts and crafts, so I do hold on to all of these, and sometimes they get used for connectors, little scrap pieces here and there, random things. So I've taken one of my edge connectors, and you can use the template Karen's provided for you to mark where your holes are, or what I did, because this leather marks really easy, I took my strap connector, I laid it down at the top edge even. So laying it down so my top edges are even. And I push. And by pushing, I get little marks that I can then mark with my leather pen. Once I've marked those with my leather pen, I then want to punch those holes. Now again, you're going to see that I don't want it to be just a screw size. I want it to be the post size, the size of that shaft space that we're going to be putting in. So there's a couple of different ways to hole punch. This is a hand punch. This one did come from Tandy. You can get these from any of your tack stores, and I say that because I am in Alberta where we have Western tack stores. You can also get them from leather stores. You can find them at some hardware stores. When I buy the Tandy one, I also have a Tandy press, which means that the tips are interchangeable between the two of these. Okay, so all I'm going to do is stand up and press my holes using the markings I've already provided. 1, Either I've had too much coffee or I need a little more based upon the shakiness going on. 2. Oh, one didn't come out. There we go. Okay. I'm going to flip this over so I can directly work on the back. When I punched these holes, I used my press, punched the holes based upon where my markings were, and then I fray checked my dogwood denim. I always fray check my fabric anytime I put any kind of hole in there. You don't want those spots fraying on you. I've also already put a little bit of E6000 glue between my metal connector and my denim. You don't want to put too much there. You just want to put a dab in the center just for temporary adhesion as well as down the road just in case. I'm going to line up my holes and grab my magnetic bowl. Magnetic bowls I get from Princess Auto here locally is the place I buy them from because it's like $2 for 3 of them, or dirt cheap that way. They are a surplus store, so random stuff. My husband is a mechanic and he loves to shop there for those weird things. They're also discounted pricing compared to most of our other places. I'm moving this onto my fabric, or moving my fabric under it, because again, I don't want to scratch my hardware as I'm playing with it. Put my washer where my screw is going to go. Some thread locker. Typically I wouldn't do that over top of my fabric, just in case it is liquid. And then line up my screw and put her in. Now, if I have troubles screwing this in, back it out. If you put your screw backwards, or start backing it out, you'll feel that little click when the screws actually match up. Next one. Just drop my lid on the dog. Good thing he doesn't care. Okay, next screw. Now, something I do teach in my class, whenever I teach bag making and we're doing hardware installations, I make everybody put their screws in their hardware and flip their product over and make sure it's right. Not with Loctite on it, not with any thread locker on it, but to make sure that the hardware's in the right spot, that the screws are going to fit right, all those things. Then I make them take one screw out at a time and put the thread locker on one screw at a time. Then there's no question about things fitting, about the threads or the screws the wrong size, any of these things. Something else I've learned, again, that mechanical husband, is if I do lose a screw, it's not about taking a screw and measuring the size of the screw and taking it into a place and getting that measurement. There are threads per inch on each screw. So this screw, compared to a bar lock screw that has a pointy end or any of those, has so many threads per inch. And they can order screws based upon length, diameter, and threads per inch to get you the right ones. No, I have no tips on measuring that threads per inch. I honestly have no clue. And my husband hasn't given me that tip yet either. The last thing I want to do here is I have this cute duct tape, and nobody's going to see it inside my bag. But you want to cover all those screws and washers with something to prevent them from rubbing against your lining material. So I'm just using my paper scissors and the teenager's duct tape. Some people will use interfacing to put on there. I like to use duct tape. I feel it's going to stick to everything, and doesn't duct tape fix everything? And now it's just going to prevent it from rubbing on my lining fabric. The other thing is, keep your duct tape down far enough away from your seam allowance here. You don't want to stitch through duct tape. That will gum up your needle. That is how I connect the strap connectors. So again, the strap connectors come from BringBerry Hardware. They do come with washers and screws for the back. You also have this bar with the 2 screws for your strap to connect to them. Supplies that I have on hand to do this: paper scissors for cutting out my templates, leather or fabric scissors for cutting the ends of my straps after I've made my straps, fray block or fray check for putting on fabric, all the fabric holes, all the cut edges of fabric. I use an awl or a flathead screwdriver to push my edges down right in under the lip of metal. I have E6000, which is my glue. It adheres fabric, metal, wood, any of those things. I do get this from Walmart in the min glue section, as I call it. It's next to Gorilla Glue. I also have my Loctite, which is a brand of thread locker. I have my hole punch, which in my case is actually my rivet press with a punch, or a hand punch. One other type of punch that you can get are the type that you hammer down, and this one is a mini punch set, also came from Tandy Leather. Comes with all these punch holes, a shaft that you screw it into, and then you hammer it on one end. Do make sure you have some kind of protective board underneath you before you use it. I have my magnetic bowl for everything just stuck together, for my screws and my hardware pieces, and a screwdriver to screw everything in. Once you have all those supplies handy, you can do anything with strap connectors. Thanks, guys.